Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and we are once again updating on Hurricane Erin now. It has officially become a hurricane with winds now up to 75 miles per hour, pressure down to 993 millibars. It became a hurricane just earlier today and is continuing to now move to the west-northwest, not directly west anymore, but is still moving fairly fast at 17 miles per hour. The Hurricane Center now has its track and intensity forecast continue to move generally west-northwestward up until we get to around Monday, where we will really start to see it turn much more to the north. And as we get overnight Monday into Tuesday, we really will see that turn directly northward to start out kind of paralleling well offshore the southeast part of the eastern seaboard, going between, it looks like, as of now, the East Coast and Bermuda. So it doesn't look like Bermuda is actually at this point in the really direct crosshairs as we once thought, with Erin and its impacts towards that island. Now, there are tropical storm watches for the very northern parts of the Leeward Islands there. If we actually, let's take a look real quick at the kind of more interactive intensity guidance map, and we will see that the intensity forecast for Erin has gone up now, so it'll reach major hurricane status, it looks like, by the time we get towards 8 p.m. tomorrow on Saturday. And then as we continue to move forward, we see it reaches 125 miles per hour. So it definitely looks like it could get a little stronger as of a Category 3 hurricane than we really expected at first. So 125 miles per hour by 8 a.m. Sunday. And then they actually have it getting to 130 mile per hour Category 4 now by the time we get towards 8 p.m. on Sunday. Now let's just take another quick look. Oh, wow. It actually has it now getting towards 140 miles per hour for the peak by the time we get towards Monday morning. So, wow, okay. We really looks like Erin definitely has a really good chance, as I guess I have shown you guys over the last few days, that the especially sea surface temperature water area that it's moving into now, north of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, the Leeward Islands, it's the most favorable environment that Erin is moving into to rapidly intensify and become a lot stronger of a hurricane and even major hurricane. Now, as you get towards 8 a.m. on Tuesday, I believe, is that right? The 20th? Yes. 16th? Or no, sorry, that's Wednesday. 8 a.m. Wednesday, 125 mile per hour Category 3. So it will start to weaken as we get towards the middle part of next week as it continues its northward trek. But in this general area between, especially as we get towards Sunday through Tuesday or so, is really its window of most prime opportunity to rapidly intensify and become a lot stronger of a hurricane and major hurricane, particularly. Now, let's take a look at how Hurricane Erin is faring right now on Tropical Tidbits. We'll take a look at the current infrared imagery, and you can see here's the center right in here, or I guess at the end here, it's really there, right there. The most coldest cloud tops and strongest convection is blowing all around in a ring right around the center. So that is really an indication that it is already in the process of trying to intensify further and continue its intensification. Now, it is in that kind of infamous shrimp look where you get a tropical cyclone gets into that look, and typically that basically entails that very likely it is going to be intensifying more rapidly fairly soon, and that does seem to be the case with how Erin is doing right now and will continue to do as we move forward into the weekend, and especially as we get into the very beginning of next week. Now, taking a look at the just general visible high-res imagery, you can see that much deeper blow-up of convection right around the center there as we get towards the end of the loop, with stronger banding further out to complement that kind of shrimp look as it continues to intensify further. Now, let's see, are we getting any recon at all into Erin? Oh, there was one. Low-level reconnaissance has now finished Air Force mission into Erin. And let's see, pressure-wise, they were finding it down into the low 990s, hence why it's at 993 millibars with this most recent advisory. All right, so we are getting recon into Erin, so that's good. That helps out a lot with obviously we know with getting that forecast, future forecast, and even current intensity to really be a lot better and more accurate. Now, so let's now. We'll take a look at the just general North Atlantic, I guess. First, looking at the general global models, starting off with the GFS model to see how how they think Erin will eventually track as we continue to move forward. So, obviously, there's Erin right there. We move this forward in time into the rest of this weekend and towards the beginning of next week. You can see the GFS really has it intensifying a lot as we get, especially into Sunday and Monday. As I said, Sunday to Tuesday is really that key most prime time frame for Erin to really intensify, rapidly intensify, and then it really turns northward, and the GFS now has it rapidly intensifying all the way down to the 930s as it really curves northward and goes further north and then more out to sea, showing that kind of going in between the further out off the eastern seaboard, but also offshore of Bermuda. However, Bermuda still looks like it will get some, at least definitely more direct impacts than the eastern seaboard. The eastern seaboard generally continues to look like it will just receive higher rip current risk at the beaches all up and down that area. But Bermuda looks likely to receive some amount of rainfall from Erin as it continues northward and passes off to its west and northwest. And then eventually Erin will move further north and further out to sea into the far north Atlantic, becoming extra tropical eventually as we get towards the end of next week and towards next weekend. Now let's take a look at the European model and see what the European model is showing for Erin. So let's see, there's obviously there's Erin right there. The European model shows it intensifying fairly rapidly as in that same time frame from Sunday to Tuesday, bringing it down to the 960s, 950s, and going still showing it going a lot closer kind of to the particularly the southeast southern mid-Atlantic coastline before curving sharply eastward and more out to sea, and being much further away from Bermuda, bringing a bit more of a chance for some outer bands of the system to reach particularly the outer banks of North Carolina. But it really does seem more likely that Erin eventually does curve northward a good bit more offshore of the eastern seaboard, to be honest, with how the National Hurricane Center is showing its track. Now, the Canadian model, let's see, the Canadian model shows the system rapidly intensifying in that same time frame, getting down to the 970s, and then kind of somewhat more in line with the GFS model, being a good bit closer to Bermuda than the eastern seaboard, but again, showing that Bermuda has much more a higher chance of seeing somewhat more direct impacts than just rip currents and higher waves at the beaches than the eastern seaboard does. So now let's take a look at the actual hurricane models. First, we'll do the HWRF, and then HMON, and the HAFS-A, then the HAFS-B. So first, HWRF with Erin. Let's see what it shows. Continue to move this forward in time. Here we go. We get into the Sunday time frame, Monday time frame. Really shows it intensifying, getting down to the 950s, 940s, 930s. Eventually getting down to the 920s as we get into Monday. And shows it curving northward and generally seeming to peak in the upper 920s to around 930 millibars before really curving northward and going in between the eastern seaboard and Bermuda. Now let's take a look at the HMON model for Erin, and let's move this forward, bring it forward into the weekend, particularly into that Sunday, Monday time frame. Bringing it down to the 940s, 930s as well, and then eventually even the 920s as well, getting closer towards the mid-920s pressure-wise, peak intensity-wise, and then curving northward and weakening as it continues to go northward and then northeastward further out to sea, going in between the eastern seaboard and Bermuda as well. Taking a look at the HAFS-A hurricane model for Erin, we see that as we get into the weekend and get closer into that Sunday, Monday time frame, really intensifies, becomes a major hurricane. Pressure drops into the 940s, 930s, gets into the mid to upper 920s as well. as it curves more northward and then eventually northeastward further out to sea. And then let's take a look at the HAFS B model. Very likely will show a very similar outcome as the 3 other hurricane models. But let's see, moving into Sunday, Monday, brings it down to the 940s, 930s, and then brings it, shows it just getting down to the low to mid 930s, peak intensity wise, or lowest pressure wise, peak intensity wise, but as we get towards the middle of the week, it has at this point already very much curved northward and is tracking well offshore the eastern seaboard, moving northward, northeastward, further out into the North Atlantic. So that's what all the hurricane models are showing for Erin and its potential intensity. Now, taking a look at closer look at the sea surface temperatures Erin is tracking into. So Erin right now is like in this area, I believe. Right now it is moving now into that much warmer 28, 29, 30 degrees Celsius water area, and especially as we get into later Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and it's in this general region, we will likely see it take full advantage and really intensify a ton, become a major hurricane. And right now the National Hurricane Center thinks it will peak as a Category 4 hurricane at 140 miles per hour as it's continuing to further track more northward, and then get closer, more likely closer to Bermuda than the eastern seaboard, before it starts to gradually weaken and then rapidly weaken as it continues to move to the north and northeast into the far North Atlantic, eventually becoming extratropical towards likely the end of next week into the next weekend. So that is what the sea surface temperatures and very, very prime conditions that Erin is going to be moving into fairly soon. So overall, the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, Erin obviously has now become the first hurricane of the season and very likely will become the first major hurricane in the next couple of days. So far, the total fatalities, we've had 5 total systems as well, by the way, up to this point. Makes sense. We're now on the E-name. We've had 23 total fatalities, damage currently at least around $62 million, but at least $61.97 million to be somewhat more exact. We had Andrea, Barry, Chantal in the very kind of more beginning of the hurricane season, had a pretty long, month-long break in between Chantal and then Dexter. Now we're having Erin currently in the Atlantic. The current total ACE index for the season, accumulated cyclone energy index, is at 7.8 units only. So actually, as we scroll down here, it says here, the first 3 storms of the year were each short-lived with a combined duration as named storms of only 2.5 days, well below the average between 1991 to 2020 value through August 2nd of 9.1 days. So yeah, we really saw a very quick just pop-up tropical cyclones forming in the very beginning of the season there between Andrea through Chantal. And even Dexter was fairly short-lived. Erin will likely be a lot longer-lived, the first more long-lived tropical cyclone of the season, especially with it becoming the first hurricane, eventually the first major hurricane of the season. The Erin has already killed 9 people, unfortunately. Damage total for Erin, since it's not likely going to really to make landfall really anywhere, it does seem unlikely also that it makes landfall on Bermuda, even though Bermuda likely will see the most direct impacts from Erin out of anywhere, including the Puerto Rico, the Northern Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and especially the U.S. East Coast. So we will see, but yeah, Erin currently is now officially the first hurricane of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. Will become very likely the first major hurricane of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season as we get towards Sunday. And between Sunday and Tuesday will be its main period of likely rapid intensification and in that most prime atmosphere and environment for the system to rapidly intensify. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, found informative, helpful, interesting. Comment down below, how strong do you think Erin will eventually be? Do you think it will only get to now that 140 mile per hour category 4 peak the National Hurricane Center is now thinking? Or do you think maybe it becomes a bit stronger than that, even maybe weaker? Like the video, subscribe for future updates on the system as we get through the rest of this week and into next week. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.